What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to OverTakes. This is Misfit, and today we're going to be doing another episode of team previews. We have 3 teams on the list today that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the San Francisco Shock, the Seoul Dynasty, and the Shanghai Dragons today. Before we dive into that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. All your support's greatly appreciated. All you guys that have been coming in either for the last day or for the last 5 years, thank you very much. If you're new, thanks a lot for stopping by. I do Overwatch League content 2 to 3 times a week during the season. Right now, we got it amped up. We're doing team previews this week. And I think this will be like my 4th video of the week in the middle of playing in the beta and stuff like that. But thanks a lot for stopping by. Okay, let's get into this. Let's talk about our next team, the San Francisco Shock. Okay, the Shock had a quote-unquote disappointing year last year. By their standards, for sure, it was disappointing. And they have decided to start fresh. They didn't like what happened last year. Yeah, they got in the playoffs. I think that they did not make any of the regular season tournaments. And yeah, they just decided to kind of start from scratch. This is who has left the team as far as the Shock. They pretty much parted ways with everybody except for Violet and Super at the point. But he retired, as we all know. But they have lost Smurf, Ons, Twilight, Tayo, Nero, Glister, FD God, and Choi Hyobin. That whole team has gone. Choi Hyobin retired. So, and the other guys have pretty much found teams, whether it's in some sort of... Actually, most of them are on other OWL teams, except for, I believe, FD God and Tayo. They're the only 2 guys that are not. They decided to gut the team. Yeah, it was disappointing. Maybe they just felt it was time. It was time to just go back, start over. We all had high expectations for them, higher than they achieved. So it stands without reason to maybe you want to start over. Where are they now? Let's talk about 2022 San Francisco Shock. So let's talk support first. We have Violet returning. Obviously, Flex God. Doing what he does, he's cracked. We all know what he can do. Now, an important thing, though it wasn't great, he can play Lucio, because they only have 2 supports right now. There's that factor, and he's done some main support stuff. And they can run a double flex support with their other support, Finn. Finn is from O2 Blast, has a great reputation. He's a great flex support. Rookie, they have a lot of rookies on this team. It's pretty much all rookies except for Violet. So you're just going to hear me keep saying young guy, rookie. So they're kind of going where they were, I would say, in 2018, where they brought in a bunch of young guys, and then they had a couple of guys. They had like Nomi and a couple of other dudes that had been around, Baby Bay. They had a couple of guys that had been around the scene for a while that were kind of there to guide them along, I guess. And, eventually they went with all the young kids, and they won the 2 championships in a row, and et cetera, and what have you. We know the history of the Shock. But Finn, going to be a great flex support. I think this guy is going to do a lot of good things for the Shock alongside Violet. This is a really good support line. I'm a little frightened, though, if you have Violet on Lucio or Mercy or something like that. It's not the greatest option, but it's an option that other teams don't have with him doing that. I will give them that. It's better than not being able to do it. Yeah, you want to play to your strengths and stuff like that. He's decent enough on Lucio, I think he can get by, because he's aggressive anyway. So you tell him, hey, you can go balls out on Lucio. He might be pretty good at doing that. So I'm not 100% worried about it. Is it my favorite option of them having to run that? No. But Finn, Violet, good support line. Next up, let's talk DPS. I think this is where this team, at least 2 of the components of it, I think are going to be great. Kilo and Proper and Sam. Obviously, we know what Proper is. This guy is the cracked next guy. He's the new kid on the block, the best DPS player coming out of contenders. He's going to be your projectile / tracer guy, and he's nuts good. This guy is going to be fucking insane. I can't wait to see this guy play. Proper was highly sought after. His reputation precedes him. He's going to be unbelievable this year for the Shock. He's going to run alongside Kilo, who was his partner in crime at O2 Blast. who's going to be your hard hit scan dude, I think this guy's going to be good too. Kilo isn't as good as Proper, but you don't have to be on the same level as the other guy you're with. If he complements him and does things that Proper can't do to a T, and they obviously have synergy, and they have synergy with Finn, I think this is going to go really, really good. And then you throw in Sam from Redbird Esports, another projectile guy. He might be someone that picks up a couple of different heroes for certain situations, i.e. Sombra, Mei, things like that. You might put him in there to go with Proper if you're going to run something like that, or with Kilo. I mean, in a perfect world, you don't want Proper out of the lineup. So I don't know how much playtime Sam's going to get, but he has a hero pool where he's not the wacky specialist, but he has some things up his sleeve like Sombra, which I think could be meta. I've been saying Tracer Genji. I haven't seen too much Tracer talk, but Sombra's pretty OP right now. They might nerf her before the season. I don't know. But in these guys' hands, she's going to be nuts. So you might see him doing some Sombra duties. Oh my God. So, and if you run like a May Reaper kind of scenario like we've heard a lot of, you might see Sam Proper. It depends on who has the synergy with him. But, we'll see what happens to that. I like their DPS line. All rookies. That's okay. There's going to be a learning curve with this team. And there's a learning curve with this game. So Krusty's not dumb, and the Shock as an organization aren't dumb. Why not hit the reset button now when the whole game is resetting and we have a whole scenario? And you don't have to, these guys, they do all have to relearn, but on the highest level, they are at least at the same spot as the other guys that were in OWL before with a new game. Fantastic idea. And they have, here's another team, one tank. They have Kalush. Kalush comes in and takes over for Super. He was with American Tornado, the original tank on Goats. So we know he's a good main tank. I think he's got a good hero pool on that side. I don't know what his other heroes are. He did have issues, but I've seen a lot of Overwatch League guys say the dude's changed. So unlike the London scenario, this guy seems to have changed, and he was also so Kalush. I think he's good. Big gap though. You have no off tank. Violet can't do everything. He can't play Lucio, play flex support, and come in and play Roadhog or something. you gotta find. Plus, there's only 2 supports, so he's tied to the support line. So I don't know where they're going to go with that. I don't know where a lot of teams are going to go with that. I think a lot of teams are kind of happy that the rush meta is kind of a thing. They can run that. Kalush is that type of tank anyway. I think that would be fine for them. And we'll see. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but a lot of people are talking rush. And then there's other teams talking Doomfist dive. And who knows what's going to happen. But I like the way the Shock look. Now, I think there's a lot of talent on this team. I think there is a low floor and a high ceiling. Proper's gonna be a hard carry on this team. But the rest of the components are really good. All rookies, all unproven in this league. Except for Violet, who's going to be the leader of this team. And hopefully he's going to take over at points in that leadership role, because they're going to miss that without Super. Super was a driving force on that team. He brought a lot to the table. Yes, he was skilled. But I think his intangibles of leadership and just the way he was as a person did a lot for that team that they don't have now. Someone's got to step up. I don't know if Kalush can take those shoes, Sam, Proper, Kilo, Finn, or Violet, but Violet's the veteran. He's going to be the guy that they're going to look to at times for guidance and things like that. I don't know if that's his thing. So where do I see the Shock finishing? Let's talk about that. Like I said, wide berth, low ceiling, or low floor, high ceiling. I think they can finish anywhere. This is going to sound ridiculous, guys. I think they can finish anywhere 5th to 10th, depending how things go. I think Proper and Violet are good enough to make sure that doesn't happen. You can throw a Kilo in there, too. I think this is going to be a very interesting year for the Shock. I'm really looking forward to, I've said this about every damn team almost, looking forward to seeing these rookies. I'm looking forward to seeing any Overwatch League, to be honest, but they intrigue me a lot with the rookies and all that. I want to see what happens with them. And I want to see if Crushly can work his magic and all that kind of work his magic and just, stamp his place as the best coach in Overwatch League history and move on from there. So that's going to be it for the San Francisco Shock. Next up, we got some good teams on this list today. All right, let's talk about the Seoul Dynasty. Okay, Seoul, last year, not as good as they were in 2020, but regular season-wise, they were better. They were kind of averaging and middling. They just got that Roadhog meta towards the end of the year, and Prophet and Gesture decided to do what they do and take over. Fits as well. I mean, that was a good scenario for them. They look good, all that stuff, whatever you want to talk about 2020. But 2021, not as good. Flat out a bad year for them as far as tournaments and things like that go. They had enough talent on that team to have done more than they did. They did finish decently in the regular season, but they decided to move on for some players. So let's talk about that. Gone from the team, 2021, Gesture, Animo, Tuyu, Marv1, and Sabiobi. Sabiobi retired, but he really didn't play much anyway last year. He might have played a couple of maps from what I remember, if that. But they got rid of some key components to their success and some of the problems on their team, honestly. And they also had, obviously, Jonak they signed, but he retired, unfortunately, due to an injury. Well, he didn't retire, I guess. He's not going to be on the team as of the moment, so he's not on the team list or anything. I'm assuming if he decides to come back, he would go back with the Seoul Dynasty. Okay, like I said, last year, not the greatest year for them. Let's dive into 2022 roster for the Seoul Dynasty. All right, let's talk DPS. This is their bread and butter. This is what makes this team move, tick, whatever you want to call it. Prophet, Fitz, and now they've added Stalker. Obviously, you know me and Prophet. Prophet is a god, and everybody else falls at his feet. That's all I got to say about that with him. Not worried about him at all. You give him more space now to play Tracer and Genji and Hanzo and some of those things, not all the barriers and all that crap. He's going to look pretty good. Same thing with Fitz. Fitz is fantastic. He's proven a lot over the last couple of years with this team. The last 3 years, he's been solid. Been, to me, honestly, really better than I think people thought he was going to be when he came in. And he's going to do, your hard hit scan stuff. We'll see if he runs Sombra this year or if that falls to Stalker. I'm assuming he's going to because he's the only real hit scan they have on. Stalker has basically the same hero pool as Prophet, so maybe you put him in situations where you run Tracer Genji. So you can do that. I keep saying it could be a thing. Genji looks really good right now. Maybe you run Prophet, you can flip-flop either one of them on that, or maybe he's better at Echo than Prophet, who has picked up by leaps and bounds on that hero from last year. I'm interested to see who plays Sojourn, because she has, I'm assuming, I don't know if it's projectile or not, or what they're going to do with that, because she kind of plays like a hit scan with the railgun, but the projectile is in her main fire. It could be just whoever's good at her. If you shoot good, you can play her. But DPS, fantastic. Now let's talk tanks. We have Smurf. Smurf is the only tank on this team. Another team going with one tank. But I feel more secure with Seoul having Smurf than a lot of the other teams with one tank, because I think he's that versatile and that kind of guy. I believe he's played, I really want to say, I remember him playing some off-tank at some point. He might have been with Super and he played Sigma. I don't know. They could have been memeing. There was a point where I thought he played some off-tank. But he's versatile enough, I think he could pull it off. So are some of the other guys, but I think you're set at tank for the moment with Smurf. I think he's going to do what you need. If he can play Ryan and Doom right now, I think you're set. Maybe a couple of the other heroes if you want to switch it off, if you want to go Winston instead of Doom, however you want to work that. But I'm not going to I'm making like there's set metas, but I'm just going from hearsay. Smurf, we all know what Smurf is. He was one of the best tanks of all time, and their only tank for the moment. I think they're going to wait it out and see what happens. So I think it's good. Now, here's where it gets dicey. We're talking about the supports now. Let's talk about their supports. We have Creative, who played last year. I gave him a lot of crap, but, going back and looking at some of the stuff, a lot of it wasn't his fault. A lot of the problems with the support line was the other guy. But we're not going to get into that. We already talked about that with the Mayhem. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Last year, he did better than I gave him credit for, and I think he's good. I think he's above average. I think him and Jonak would have been a good rotation on flex support. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Now, they brought in Vindine from O2 Blast. The O2 Blast boys just, keep going around. I mean, they're really good, so why not bring them in? Good main support. Plays your main support and necessities. Brig Lucio Mercy. He's got that set down. I think that they're going to be pretty good on all things here. I don't know as much about Vendime as I do some of the other guys on O2 Blast. I don't pay too much attention to main supports. I only know guys like FD God that pop the fuck off and, kind of do Reddit loots, sometimes. Or obviously in Season 1 with the Moth meta, where, the guys like Neptuno that would go on killing sprees in Valkyrie, rezzing half the planet. Yeah, this team is poised to do something good, but I hold back always. But there is a major thing, though. They have a new head coach in KDG. He was the coach of the Fusion, 2018, 2019, I believe. They always look good when he was there. A step in a new direction. Maybe he's going to get some better things out of these players. I mean, obviously, looking at this roster, what is there not to like about this roster? Where do I think they're going to finish now? Let's talk about that. I think they can finish anywhere from 2 to 4, maybe 5 in APAC. No, 5 is too low. I can't go that low with them. They're going to be fighting Shanghai and possibly Chengdu and most likely Philly and Hangzhou for the playoffs and going to tournaments and things like that. And potentially going further than that in the regular playoffs. I think this team is built to win now. I really like this roster. I would like to see maybe another flex support, but in addition to creative, but I think they're pretty well set. Or maybe an off tank would help too. From the rumor mill and all that stuff, you might not need one. So to start off the season at least, you're okay. If you can get through the first stage and you decide you need an off tank, by all means get one. And they're sold, so they are in the thick of it. And you get to see some of these guys that in contenders playing Overwatch 2. See who's good, maybe who you want to pick up. Somebody that has did a good job on, and you're right in the thick of it in Korea. They don't have to get visas necessarily. They're right there at home, and you can just pick them up. So I think they're at a distinct advantage with that. I really am expecting good things from this team, like I said, 2 to 4 in APAC. Let's talk about our last team for this episode, the Shanghai Dragons. All right, what else is there to say about the Dragons? They stood pat. They got rid of one guy off their 2 people off their bench. They got rid of Molly, and they got rid of Develop. Now, obviously, their season, they won the championship, best team in the league. You could see it coming in 2020. They got out-hogged in the finals, and they ended up bringing in Fate that everybody did not like. I was skeptical, but I saw Fate enough with the Mayhem to know that he was a leader and he was going to do good things on his team. And Moon is a smart dude, and he trusted him, and they won the championship. And Fate was one of the big differences. Obviously, this team is stacked, beyond stacked. So, let's go over their roster. We really don't have to spend a ton of time on it, honestly, because we know who most of the guys are. They're the same team that won the championship with some backups added to help out this team. A couple of them might be to help the team or so other teams didn't have a chance at him. Let's talk about what we got. DPS. Top 3 DPS line in the league. Much like the last line that we talked about in Seoul, Fleta and Lip are unbelievable. You add in Who Are You? Okay, you need a Genji specialist. I've been talking a lot about Genji. This guy in 2018, he was the Genji god. I mean, do you bring him in, though, over Fleta? Possibly. Lip is going to be doing Lip things. All the things he plays are kind of meta-ish anyway. And it doesn't matter. He could shoehorn him in there. He's that good. He plays Sombra, all the hit scans, and then you got Fleta doing your flex. You got MVPs all over the place. This team is so good. MVP candidates. Now, there's a world where potentially you have Who Are You play Genji. Possibly, maybe. But I would just stick with Fleta and Lip and just go with what you know. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That whole thing. Support line. Lee Jae-gon and Izayaki. I want to see what Lee Jae-gon actually does this year if Lucio's meta and he can go solo stalker Lucio craziness. I just... This is like the perfect meta for him. And then you got Izayaki. Before this season was an underrated flex support. Now everyone I think has slightly underrated. I'm not saying that people are like, oh, Izayaki's terrible. He got a weird reputation during GOATs. It just wasn't for everybody when he was with the Valiant. This is a top of the league, top 2 support line. Izayaki, Lee Jae-gon, you're set there. And then you have Bebe as your backup or in case you do a double flex support. That's a good option to have. Is he fantastic? No, but he's above average on Zen at least. Yeah, Izayaki's a god on Zen, but you can put Izayaki Ana, Bebe Zen, if that's what you're running. Hey, you're set. You're all good. And then tank line. You have 2 of the best, Void and Fate. Void's been an MVP candidate. Fate was phenomenal last year. Picked up ball, and he's a great Winston, great Reinhardt. Void can play all the off tanks. There's nothing more to say about this team except for, yeah, okay, they should be at the top of the league again. They should be 1, maybe 2, at the worst 3 overall. I expect them to be on top in APAC, and they better be in all the tournaments unless they take off the Countdown Cup like they did this year, where they just kind of sat back a little bit and said, you guys have fun. That was when I think Molly and Develop got their only maps of the year. Actually, I think Who Are You played too. Maybe a map. I don't know. But yeah, Shanghai is Shanghai, guys. Nothing's changed. If anything, the cracked supports and DPS line now have more room. Yeah, all right, so you lose a little with the tank synergy with Fate and Void. All right, yeah, but they're still gods. So you don't lose much. This team is going to be great as usual. Like I said, vying for the championship. They're where the shock were in 2019 and 2020. They're on that level. Focused, ready to just take over the world. We're the king of the hill. Come at us, and we'll take you down. That's the Dragons. That's the way I see the Dragons this year. Who knows? It could blow up. It could fail miserably with the new game. I don't think it will. These guys are too cracked mechanically to have anything happen. That's like at every position, even their backups. Maybe minus Bebe you can go cracked, but he still has his moments where he can pop off. That's my thoughts on Shanghai. They're going to run it back. Poised to run it back at least. But you know what, guys? That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks a lot for joining me. Today we had a fun one today. A couple of good teams, and you're not going, trying to convince yourself a team isn't hot garbage, or you're trying to figure out where in the middle they're going to finish, except for the middle. We know 2 of these teams are going to be really good. The Shock have really good young players. It's just where they're going to fall. Up, down, who knows? But that's going to do it, guys. Next episode, our final team preview episode, we have the last 3 teams. Toronto Defiant of Vancouver Titans and the Washington Justice. That's going to do it. Thanks a lot for joining me, guys. All your support's greatly, greatly appreciated, as always. I really do mean it. All you guys have been coming in, checking me out. Thank you very much. All you guys are new that made it to the end of the video, thanks a lot. If you could hit a like, hit a subscribe, do that YouTube jazz, that would be fantastic. This is Misfit. I'm out. Everybody stay safe, have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you on the next one.